Hello, everyone.
Look at that.
Hey.
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 Good. Yeah, I'm just eating my scrambled egg.
Oh, lovely.
Oh, nice work.
Hold on. I can't find the camera. Oh, there it is.
Good on you, James.
Rather good.
I love it.
Oh,
We
fair.
can
Bit
now
of
watch you
energy.
eat scrambled eggs.
I'm going to turn this camera off a little bit. Hold on.
All right, we're just going to give everyone a little while just to join because numbers were going up.
A few more people just waiting. They're joining now. Absolutely. Another minute.
I'll tell you what, if you're not busy eating scrambled eggs, which I don't know if that applies to all of you, there's two things that are going to be really, really useful through the session. One, definitely, and that's a pen. The second one is just something to write on. So if you haven't got anything like that, you can grab it. If you have these things, even better, Post-it notes. Look at that, everyone jumped at that point. So, but the bare minimum at least is a pen and a piece of paper, because you're going to do
Scrambled egg and Post-it.
Look at that. That's a gold star. James, you can get an extra gold star. We'll have just a bit of fun for about 20 seconds. And if you get a sheet of A4 paper in front of you, great. It doesn't have to be A4, anything. If you can't find one, that really doesn't matter.
Yeah, happy days.
All right. Do you think we're ready to kick off, Dan? Shall we dive into things? Are you good to go?
You go for it.
Excellent. All right, everyone. Well, welcome to the Aspire Ideas Workshop. We're so pleased to have you all join us. I am Katie Lewis and I am COO at Rainmaking and co-founder of Aspire. So what you're going to experience today is a very condensed snapshot of the type of work that we do with people as we work with them through our Aspire program, which is all about helping people take ideas and launch them into businesses. We'll speak a wee bit more about that as we come to the end of the program, but we think that this is such a fantastic way of kicking off so that you can see how we like to work and how we can be working with you to help you achieve perhaps more than you thought was possible. So with that, I'm now going to hand over to our fantastic facilitator and coach, Dan Rowe. So over to you, Dan.
Excellent. Thank you, Katie. I apologise now. I'm painting my office down the end of the garden. So I'm in the house. If there's loads of noise, it's my wife trying to get the kids out and go and have a coffee. So I apologise now. And if the dog interrupts, definitely an apology. Yeah, just a quick intro. Katie mentioned me very briefly. As she said, I work with the Aspire team. I'm a coach with the program. I'm also part of the founding team. But in terms of my background, I've got, and I know I don't look it, it's going to be a surprise to all of you. I spent about 19 very long years in corporate. I'm initially and trained as an engineer. But quickly got out of that and ended up running big bits of big businesses, basically across science, publishing, educational publishing, educational companies, etc. So I left that world about 5 years ago to go and do what I genuinely love with a passion, and that's start businesses. So I have a couple under my belt. I have a social enterprise as well. And I spend time doing this because I love speaking to people. I have no idea how many people we have on this call, but I do have one request. And that is, if you have a camera, please turn it on. However, please be dressed. That's all I ask. All right. So yeah, we're all good. It's just lovely to see faces. Again, I have no idea how many people we got, 20 odd people. That's going to be sort of tough to interact. It's going to be absolutely racing through a workshop and one of the workshops that we run on Aspire. So this is kind of a taster, but really just to get you going. If you're on the program, you get more time doing these things and a lot more time to think through. But I wanted just to give you a few starting points because that is basically the start of any business or any new venture. So hopefully you can see the screen, and that's the one thing, by the way, I should have also said, bring a coffee. This is just, by the way, our sort of principles as we move through the program. We survive on a lot of this. However, I like it. Lamont's got his coffee all there ready. I don't typically, which is annoying. But yeah, through the program, we obviously it's hard. All right. We're not going to lie about that. Doing anything new is difficult. So, and what we have with Aspire is basically a process that we've engineered over the last goodness knows how many years. We've applied it to our own ventures, but also with corporates that we've worked with. So it works. And ooh, I've got a massive echo. We might have to say, if you could stick on mute, that would be great, just in case. Excellent. But it works. It's something that's applied. We use lean startup, design thinking, customer development, elements of agile, design sprints, etc., and mush them together into a process that gets you from a starting point to something that is going to work. The one thing you might feel, and you might feel it today, and we're absolutely fine with that, is that you might feel a little bit uncomfortable. And that's a good thing. That's something that you do need to get used to, because when you're starting something new, you all have come from BP or a part of BP. Big companies run stuff. They know what they're doing. When you're starting something new, we actually don't really know. So the process that we follow is one around curiosity and discovery. So we have to be comfortable with feeling uncomfortable. And it's also can sometimes be a little bit frustrating. This is what sometimes I look like when I speak with customers, but that is a fact of life. All right. So, but the most important thing is we get it. And we truly do get it. Everything that we teach, everything that we do in structuring the way you work through this process, we've lived it. We would never, ever ask you to do something we've not done ourselves. So we will say strange things like, we would like you to try and sell something before you build something. And that is a principle that helps us get to an answer quickly. It means we don't just focus on building something that someone might not need. I actually did this yesterday. So we had a launch event for the social enterprise that I founded. And we launched out a couple of new initiatives, which frankly, we've not really built yet. We're doing that just to test how much people actually want it. So again, things might feel a bit uncomfortable. We truly get it. And all of the coaches on the program have been involved in startups or starting new ventures. So you can moan and whinge about things and it's great, all right? Because we will completely sympathize and empathize with you. I'm going to ask, I said this for those that weren't on at the very beginning, if you have a sheet of A4 paper, could you grab it right now? Anything, it doesn't matter. If you don't have one, hey ho, you can just pretend. But I'm going to give you 20 seconds to do something. The hint is on the screen and you're going to start now. And it's this, build a paper aeroplane. Go.
You're going to create one, Dan?
Oh, look, I was getting a timer out.
Get your timer into it. Keep going.
Hang on. I'm going to have to do the timing in my head now. I reckon 10 seconds.
Yeah, 10 seconds to go.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Love it. For those of you that got your cameras on, put them up to the screen. You can show everyone.
Hey. Oh, I like that one, Mark. That's
right.
good.
Now, I'm going to ask you to do something, but I have to, even though we're virtual, I have to deal with health and safety, the due diligence. And care for everyone. Check there are no pets around. My dog is there, so I won't throw it in that direction. Or small children. If you don't like them, throw them at them. Have a go. Mine was rubbish, but hey ho. And do you know the worst thing is I was an avionics engineer. So I used to build electronics in aircraft. James
I made a boomerang.
Fantastic. Wow. There is a very strange reason why I asked you to do that. Okay. One of the principles that James is just having fun. He had his
this is great.
And it's given him a massive boost.
I got a business idea.
Do you know what? That's great. And there's a story behind that. Actually, my business partner on the social enterprise started an airline over dinner. And featured 2 weeks later in the Financial Times on the front cover. Anyway, so there's amazing things you can do. The reason I asked you to do that is one of the things that we ask of everyone working through this is basically lean in. All right. So we love especially if we come from working in a big company. And I can say that because I've done it long enough. We love to think. We love to talk. We love to think. We love to have meetings. We like to discuss. We like to sketch things out, but we don't really do anything. And the one thing that we really, really ask, and the process really makes you do, is to lean into action. Okay. If I had given you 5 minutes to build that paper aeroplane, I bet most of them wouldn't have been much better than had you just had the 20 seconds I gave you. And that's basically the point, is lean in and just do something. The one thing we say quite a lot is we'd rather you do something and do it badly than not do anything at all. So we've got to try and unlearn that piece in our heads where we're looking and seeking for perfection. It does not exist at all, especially at this moment in time, which is thinking about what your starting point is going to be. And that's what I want to just talk about a little bit, is sort of 4 examples of where you can have inspiration for an idea for a business. When you get into the mood of this, when you've started a few things up yourself, you find you spend quite a bit of time, your brain fizzes around in this part of the world, which is thinking about what's the next thing I could do. And basically they come from sources of inspiration that you'll find, passions that you have inside. The first one is this, and it's just sort of different ways of thinking. The first one is, I myself have experienced a problem. It is the starting point for lots and lots of businesses, something that frustrates you, something that you're trying to get done, and there's no solution for. MailChimp, for those that know it, is a great example of that. MailChimp is nothing more than a great system for sending emails. It is used worldwide by most companies. They've done very well. It was created by someone who had the laborious task of writing emails and sending them to marketing databases. So he then said, right, tell you what, this is really boring. It's really dull. It takes a load of time. I'm going to build a system that does it for me. And then funnily enough, he decided that he can sell that to other people. It's a great starting point. And probably if you look around your life, I have 2 great moments of inspiration on a daily basis that cause me problems, and I experience them firsthand. They're my children. So actually it can become quite inspirational in terms of the things you want to solve. Can I solve all the problems? No. Am I going to try? Yeah, I'll give it a damn good go. The second one is this, and that is, I know someone who's got a problem. So you might not experience it yourself, but you know someone who is passionate about something and you want to help them. I would recommend, by the way, doing a quick Google search for patients like me and looking for a video. And for the life of me, I can't remember the name of the founder, which should come back to me. And it's awful because I actually met him a number of times. We were looking to acquire them as a company. He basically, his brother had ALS, which is a horrific disease and ultimately will kill you. And the drugs didn't work. So he was looking just at a way of his brother being able to track his symptoms on a daily basis, the things that he did, activities, what he ate, alternative medicines, to see if he could correlate a cause and effect and to see how he could improve his life. They then started sharing that with other people who tracked the same kind of stuff. They now have one of the world's biggest databases of patients out there with, I think they cover about 500 different diseases now. And actually drug companies are buying that data. They're finding alternative uses for their drugs and positive effects where they didn't realize it was going to happen. It's lovely, by the way, this, when he pitches his idea, he talks about his brother to start with. He doesn't even say what Patients Like Me is about. If you get to the end and you haven't cried, you probably haven't got a heart. Anyway, moving on to the next starting point is passion for a solution or a bit of tech. So I also have this. I'm an engineer, so there's stuff I like to build, and I like to think about where I could apply that. The example I use is something called TreeTP. You can search that up, and it was a bit of tech that a guy in America, his dad actually developed, and then he applied that and adapted it to basically conserve water when you're planting and watering lots and lots of trees in an orchard. Again, it's just a different approach to where you want to start from. If you're not sure, if you've got a skill, if you have a passion for a solution or a bit of tech or something, see where you could go from that. Try and imagine what you could do and how you could apply it. And then the final one is you might just have a wider passion for a bigger outcome. All right. And Patagonia is definitely founded in this, which is, yes, they're a clothing company, but actually they're a company that just wants to save the planet. It is their guiding light in everything that they do. And in fact, the CEO about a year ago said, we've got it wrong over the last couple of years and we need to centre back on what we ultimately wanted to achieve, which is to save the planet. They just always think about ideas that are going to have a positive effect. They're great for things like sustainability. You buy clothing and you get it repaired as opposed to chucking it away. So it kind of centers them as a company. Now, you might have another different starting point. I just wanted to give you sort of 4 different places you can have a think and start opening your eyes to what could I do and what could I apply? And there's a reason for that. But what I want you to do right now is get used to something else. All right. And that is this. These things up here, our brains are incredibly cluttered. They're cluttered enough with normal stuff in life, let alone when you suddenly start to try something new as a business, a new product, a new service, a new whatever. Then it starts to get really complicated. So I want to teach you, and I tell my children this all of the time, is this thing and that thing are their very powerful combination. Get stuff out of your head and get it written down on paper. Ultimately, we're all very visual, and actually having something in front of you is useful. So I want you just to do that for, it says 2 minutes. I lie. You'll work that one out. It's going to be about 1.5 minutes. I just want you to write something down. And you've got 2 starting points. Number 1, some people might already have an idea. Great. If you do, write some stuff down about it. All right. Get it out of your head. There are some people that might be sitting there going, I don't know where to start. Well, I've given you 4 potential starting points, and I want you to do your best to just write down something about what are your passions. All right. So what really gets you up in the morning? I'm not talking about coffee, but what's that thing that gets your belly excited about what the day has got in store? What's going to keep you interested? Try not to. I mean, it's a hard thing to say. It's, do I believe it? Yeah, I do. Do something that you love, because frankly, that is the thing that is going to get you up every day. When things get a little bit tough, remind yourself of why you did something in the first place. I'm going to give you another little free tool, by the way. It's one that I used when I finished my corporate career 5 years ago. And I wrote myself a letter. And I wrote myself a letter which told me all the things that I was good at and I wanted to do, and what I was passionate about. And I tell you what, I've had a fair few squeaky moments over the last 5 years. And I have gone back to that letter, and it actually gives me a little bit of a boost. It reminds me. It sounds stupid. It's not one bit. So 1.5 minutes, scribble away. Just 30 more seconds. Okay, 5 more seconds. Excellent. Okay, that is, and by the way, I'd recommend keep going back to do things like this. All right, it seems a bit silly, but actually it's really important. And there's a reason why this stuff is important. And there's something that we don't necessarily like talking about whenever we start a new business. And by the way, Katie, myself, the whole of the team, having worked with startups for, I don't know how many years, I'm not even going to count. And looking at startups coming onto things like accelerator programs, we make them do the same thing, which is that we get them to stop thinking about their idea and think about something slightly different just at the beginning, which sounds a little bit weird, but there is a reason. And I'm going to say something, and it starts to sound a little bit miserable, but we have to be really realistic. And that is this: that ultimately the biggest risk for any entrepreneur, anyone starting something new, because time is such a valuable thing, is spending too much of it building the wrong thing. And the reason why that is something that we need to really avoid is, can we take a wild guess, if anyone wants to come off mute and actually has a thought as to what the answer is, but what is the number one killer of any new product and service launched to market? Does anyone know?
No sale.
No sales? Absolutely. What's the reason why there's no sales?
Product already exists.
Products already exist. Yeah. We'll get there.
You haven't told anybody about it. There's no marketing behind it.
There you go. It can be that. There's no marketing. And actually, all of those things will apply. The biggest one, though, without doubt, is this. There is absolutely no customer need whatsoever.
We have to give some points to Ian. He mentioned in the chat that market doesn't exist. So good on you, Ian.
Look at that. That's wonderful. So, and exactly that. What we do is we have to go back and make sure that we are not creating, I like to call it an invention. So it might be a cool bit of tech that does something and it looks really cool. Segway, by the way, that two-wheeled thing that you drive on, is a great invention. It's not really a great innovation. And the reason for that is it didn't sell very well. So, and that's because the Segway, what actually was the customer need? They went out originally saying it's going to revolutionize transport. But in effect, they were saying you can go slightly faster than walking. You can probably carry a little bit less than if you're walking. You're probably going to get wetter if it's raining, and it's nowhere as good as a car. So actually, whilst it was a cool invention, they took a lot of scrambling around to find a specific customer that actually it solved the problem for. Unfortunately for them, it was just, there were two types of customers. One were tourists, and the second one were security people going around an airport. So a pretty limited market. That's what we need to make sure we try and engineer the process to make sure that there is actually a customer and there is a need. And it is painful enough that ultimately they're going to buy something from you. And the numbers are quite horrific and scary in terms of it's about half of startups fail because of this very, very reason, but it is the number one. So we have ways of sort of getting around that. And what we like to do and what we're going to get you to have a little think about is whatever your starting point, even if you've got an idea, even if you might have started building something, is to take a step back and have a real think about who you're actually trying to deliver this to and who your early adopter is going to be. In corporate, we are kind of lucky. We're given quite a lot of time to find a customer and get some revenue. It's a very, very different story when you don't have the backing of someone paying a salary on a monthly basis. It really does focus your mind on finding a customer as quickly as bloody possible, because you need one, because they're going to give you some money. And if you have that money, you're going to be able to keep going. So actually, this is all about engineering to get to revenue as quickly as possible. But to do that, we need to have what's called an early adopter. And they are defined very simply by this. Number one, they have a problem. Without a problem, they won't be looking for a solution. Secondly, and this is really important, they're aware of having a problem. Some people have problems and are clueless that it is a problem. Thirdly, and ideally, is that they're actually actively looking for a solution and trying to do something about it. And they may themselves have either bought something else that might have sort of done the trick, or they may have cobbled together their own kind of solution to get around this. And ideally at the end, again, that they've actually got some money to spend. And that's when we kick off any new business, even if we start with an idea, is what we focus on doing. We use a technique called customer development to do this, where we actually go and speak to customers about their favorite topic, and that is themselves. So we don't talk about the idea, we don't talk about the products, we don't try stuff out, we just talk to them about what problems they think they've got. And we get them to give examples. So there's a very, very clear method that we use. By the way, if you want to read up about it, it's been written up by a chap called Rob Fitzpatrick. who's a friend of Aspire and Rainmaking, and you can read it, and it's called The Mom Test, which is you can even speak to your own mother and she will give you honest opinion about your idea. Okay, so what we're going to do is just say, whatever your starting point, we hope that you can now actually align that to someone you want to help, a type of person that you potentially could help as a customer. And I'm going to give you just 2 minutes to jot down, what does that customer look like? What attributes would you use to describe them? Where could you find them? So we say, where do they hang out? What do they look at? Do they look at magazines? Do they look at newspapers? Do they go online? If they go online, where are they online? Are they on LinkedIn? Are they on Facebook? Are they somewhere else? Do they go to conferences? There's loads of things that you could put about them, but just use these 2 minutes to jot down, who do you think you want to target? Best as well, if you have a few different ideas for different types of customer, jot those all down. Whilst you keep working, I'll just say one thing, and I didn't say this at the start, but you're definitely safe doing it because you're not sharing any of this stuff. In all of our sessions, there is never wrong. Wrong doesn't exist, okay? So we are all about taking a guess at something and then doing something to see if you are right or wrong, and if you want to go in that direction or not. So whatever is in your head right now, write it down. Do not be embarrassed. Get it out on paper. One other thing, the more specific you can get about the type of person you want to help, the better it's going to be. The reason for that is you'll keep refining this view on your customer. You may completely change your view on your customer. You might do it once every 2 days at the beginning, and that is just fine. But ultimately, you want to find those people and actually go and speak with them. And the more niche you can get, the more useful it is. Now, that sounds weird, but Airbnb did not start as a global company selling space in other people's houses for people to rent out. They did do that, but they very, very specifically did it in San Francisco, and they did it to designers who were coming to a conference that was being held there. So it was an incredibly niche market, which is why the concept was kind of cool and funky. Designers were absolutely the most beautiful early adopter for that. Come and stay in a funky room somewhere. It's not a hotel, it's not boring. And that's how they started. Cool. Okay, so hopefully you have at least jotted something down. This is where, again, we remind you, you're not looking for perfection. This is not a linear process. We don't do something once and then never revisit it. We're not building a business case here where you're making up some stuff and it's going to go into a big document to present to someone. It's just a way of organizing your brain, nothing more. So hopefully you've got one or maybe even more customer segments and early adopter groups that you might want to target, which is great. And if you do, we want to tie you now back to, for each of those, we want you to have a little think about 3 things, okay? And we talk quite a lot about jobs to be done. We talk a lot about also pains and gains, all right? So jobs and tasks are basically functional or emotional or social jobs that need doing. So this is the stuff that someone's got on their tick list, the things they need to achieve and get done, and there's an outcome. Now, pains or frustrations are those pains or frustrations they feel whilst they're trying to get that stuff sorted. And then the final one are aspirations. This is really important, by the way. These are gains. This is something that a lot of companies forget. We like talking about solving problems, but we don't like talking about delivering on an aspiration. Apple rely on this wholeheartedly. The reason that Apple products are much more expensive is because you're not just buying a piece of tech, you are buying being cool. You're buying into being part of this prestigious club who is an iPhone owner and can show everyone the latest device. All right. So they play absolutely. This is why I won't get on my soapbox about this. They're not a tech company. They're a marketing company, but that is what they play on. They play on aspiration. And a lot of luxury brands do exactly the same. But what I want you to do just again for a couple of minutes for each of those customers is just jot down. This is, if you have Post-it notes, even better. You can put one job, one pain, one gain on each Post-it note and just dot them around the customer that you were thinking about. So it's just a way again of getting out of your heads. What do you think they're really experiencing? What do you think they're really trying to do? I'm going to multitask, Katie. Niall, yes.
Brilliant. I was just typing. So I'll also type it so people can look at it after they've done their actions.
I'll just say was having.
Thank you.
Oh, brilliant. I was going to say, I've gone and said it, and I'm not aware if you can even hear me.
No, I'm transitioning from BP tech to my own tech, and there were a few issues, let's say, but I think I've cracked it now.
I know what that feels like. I went through it 5 years ago. I'm just coming out the other side.
Very good.
Right, just 30 more seconds. And again, this is not a one-off. Keep going back to this. We will make you keep going back to this. This is fundamental to starting anything new. Ten more seconds. Okay. Right, again, that was whirlwind, all right, to say the least. We use lots of tools through the process. One of them is actually called the Value Proposition Canvas, and it gets you to do exactly that, which is to focus down on the early adopter segments that you want to go after, bearing in mind that sometimes you may create a business that has multiple customers. eBay is a good example. You have a seller and you have a buyer. So you have different value propositions that will go to both of them. The key thing is this: ultimately, you will get to a point where you will know just the 2 or 3 things you're absolutely going to do for your customer and the problems that you're going to solve for them or the aspirations that you're going to deliver to them. And you will then center your value proposition, which is just words, basically, words and pictures. It's a promise of what you're going to do for people. You're going to center them on those needs in particular. And we have ways where you can start to build up your real understanding of customers and then focus down on the things that really matter to them. Okay, so, but this is just at least a starting point. Now, and this is the reason, even if you started with an idea, the reason we take you back to the customer and then the customer pains and the gains and the jobs is that there might actually be multiple solutions to the problem that you're trying to solve. And the example I use is this. Recently, I had an option of buying something because I've got 2 children. They are 11 and 13. 12 and 13. Blimey, one of them's just had a birthday. I know, that's awful. It was only a couple of days ago, so it's fine. They both spend a lot of time on the internet. Okay, I don't want to spend any time with them when they're in their rooms on the internet. I want to be sure that they're going to be safe. All right. So what I'm looking for, and that's my problem. So I have an option, and I had an option to buy 2 things. Option 1 was a great bit of software, which I just signed up to, and it just means that they're going to be monitored so that it blocks anything that they shouldn't be seeing. which was one option. The other one is Sven. Sven turns up in the morning and he's about 7 foot tall. He goes into our children's room. He has a hammer. And every time they go and look at something they shouldn't, he hits their hand with a hammer. Now, those are two ideas that solve the same problem. Either of those will deliver me peace of mind, all right? Because I know my kids will not look at stuff they shouldn't look at. Now, of course, I chose the sensible one and I went for Sven, all right? So he's currently here looking after my kids at the moment. But the point is this, there are sometimes 100 different ways that you can solve the same problem. And what we don't want you to do is to get fixated on an idea. We want you to be fixated on a problem, because that is the thing that won't change or won't change immediately. We want you to have the flexibility in your brain to think about solving it in lots of different ways. Okay. So what I want to do, Katie, do you want to say something? You came off mute.
Yes, I was just going to say that I think that hopefully also addresses Ryan's question he's just shared with us, which is that he didn't write anything down for kind of, option 1 in terms of something he was experiencing, but he did for option 2, which is looking at someone else's problems. So Ryan, does that help you, that we're looking now at those problems that you first identified and how you might look to address those challenges? Does that help clarify the task?
Well, no, I know the task. I get that part. It was just a question. I didn't want to necessarily disturb the flow, but I didn't write down the starting point for a business startup.
That's fine.
One of the
Absolutely
first
fine. So yeah, basically, Ryan, this is again, none of this is a linear thing. If you actually look inside of the brain of someone who launches new businesses, their brain is ticking 5 minutes. It might be on, oh, I've just spotted there's something really interesting there. If I solve that, it could be kind of interesting, through to, oh, how could I actually do that? So, and then they might flip back and then go, actually, maybe not, I'm going to solve something different. So your brain flicks around. We just want to give you a few ways of being able to do that. So just that you miss one out, not a problem. Again, the point I just wanted to push is we're looking for a pool of ideas that you can play around with, okay? Because this is basically an odds game, okay? The success of anything working is about 1 in 10. So there's enough studies that look at corporate ventures, that look at startups, 9 out of 10 are going to fail. So the way that you engineer success is you get to an answer within weeks about if you should pursue an idea. But that relies on you being able to go back and say, I'm going to either solve a different problem or I'm going to solve it in a slightly different way. So we just want you to get into the habit of knowing that those ideas can change. So I'm going to give you just a minute and a half, and I want you to jot down 8 ideas of ways of solving the problem that you wanted to focus on. They can be as crazy and stupid as you want. It doesn't matter. But a minute and a half, go. There is no wrong. If anyone gets to 8, you get a prize. I made that last bit up, but if anyone gets to 8, we'll pretend you've got a prize.
I'm sure everyone's going to hover around 7 now, not knowing what kind of a prize you might give Dan. Your paper plane.
And I'm gonna get you all to sort of multitask. You can either just ignore what I'm saying, or you can listen in. But this is a really interesting one. We have a tendency to try and think big when we think of solutions. And this is exactly what Eurostar did when they were challenged by the low-cost airlines. So Eurostar, when it came into play, was hugely popular. The lovely train going between London and Paris. And then EasyJet, Ryanair came along and started taking passengers. So Eurostar focused on one thing to solve the problem, which is, well, we think it's because it's quicker. So we need to be quicker. So they spent billions on upgrading their infrastructure to shave about 20 minutes off the journey, which is not significant. Rory Sutherland does a great speech. Go and look him up on TED. And he does a TED talk called, I think it's called, You Sweat the Detail. But he said if he'd had the option, he wouldn't have spent billions. What he would have done is to employ male and female supermodels to walk up and down the train serving free champagne for the duration of the journey. And costing it up, it would have cost a lot less than spending the billions on that new infrastructure. And he said, jokingly, but probably true, people would have wanted that journey to last longer. There are always other ways to solve the problem that you're trying to solve. And that's what we're trying to get you to think about. All right. So has anyone got to 8? No. It's hard, right? It's really, really hard. So we do stupid things like this. We're going to get you to do just for 1 minute. And I want you to create some ideas, but I want you to purposefully think of Sven. Sven was a really bad idea for looking after my kids on the internet. All right. They're going to end up with broken hands and slightly traumatized. But I want you to come up with a load of really bad ideas to solve that problem. So this is one way that you can sort of get around that writer's block. The other way is this. You can ask yourself this question. What would Donald Trump do to solve this problem? So pretty much 6.5. I love it. I didn't get 8. I got 6.5 ideas.
Love it. It's brilliant. Good on you.
He would deny there's a problem.
Well, that's true too. He probably would, wouldn't he?
Which is the answer, isn't it?
So do write down bad stuff. It can be illegal. It can be immoral. It can be anything. All right. So anything at all. Fake problem. This, by the way, is just it's quite a nice little technique. It's a little mental twist by telling yourself that actually what I'm going to do is really rubbish, but I'm going to do it on purpose. It actually frees your brain up a little bit. What I recommend is that you have a little book and you write bad ideas on the front of it that you can use to jot down. Okay, so sounds really silly, but little techniques like this can work. And we do crazy things as well. We get you to do things into the program where we'll get you to write a press release about your idea and about your new business. And that's only about a week in. All right. So you're putting yourself in the position where you're 2 years out, you've been successful. What are you going to tell the world? What does that press release say? I've used this technique for donkey's years. Unfortunately, Amazon have now coined it as their own technique. Any project going through Amazon has to go through their working backwards methodology. And they do that. They basically envisage success. And from that, it helps them get some clarity about what they're actually wanting to do. So silly techniques, they do seem silly, but they work incredibly well. Excellent. I hope you've got a number of ideas in front of you, stuff that you could play with. There's one other thing that you can do, and we're just going to do it for a minute. I want you to take a few of those ideas and I want you to smash them together. What happens if you combine some of those things? Does it bring you out anything new? Does it make you think of anything different? If you combine some of those things, you could take your bad idea, try and turn it into a good one if you wanted to, but have a play and see where that takes you. Just 1 more minute. And have fun with it. Whilst feeling uncomfortable. Excellent. Okay. I'm hoping everyone has got at least 2 ideas. Otherwise, the next exercise, which is very mentally taxing, is not going to work and it's not going to make any sense. All right. But I'm going to ask you to do this. This one lasts the whole 15 seconds. All right. And that involves me also, I think, giving the instructions. Make a choice. You've got 15 seconds. Pick one thing, one idea that you could spend a little bit of time in expanding. You've got 10 more seconds. Pick something in front of you. He's making me choose. Good stuff. When we do this in big groups, by the way, we give people sticky dots. They all have 3 and they have a chance to vote very quickly. Ones with the most dots go forwards. That's it. Here's the deal. We're living in a world of assumptions. We're living in a world of guesses. So any of those ideas you've got in front of you could work, okay? They could turn out to something. They could turn out to be nothing. You don't know. The thing that we ask you to do is just pick a starting point. The next thing you will do when you, or if and when you come onto the program, is that you will go straight into conversations with customers. We break that idea down more. We prep you in terms of how to talk with them, and we get you out there chatting or inside virtually chatting, whatever the restrictions force us to do. You will learn more in those first couple of weeks than you will if you just agonize over picking which idea you're going to go with. You will learn very quickly if you need to change course immediately or not. So we don't really care too much what that starting point is. We just want you to have one. The other thing that's quite useful, and I just want to talk about risks a little bit. This is all about risk management, the way that we work. And the risks you can kind of put in that order. So the first risk is market and industry. We said that right at the very beginning. And I think it was Ryan that answered it correctly. There's no market for it. And if it wasn't Ryan, I apologize. But that is the one that we focus on. The second one is that, again, you haven't got customer with a problem. So that's 2 and 3, really important. 4 is the solution. It might be that you found a market, you found your customers, they've got the problem, and actually your solution's just a load of rubbish. All right. So, and that does happen, of course. The final risk to building any new venture is scaling it. We don't care about scale at this moment, and we really don't care about the solution. We are all about de-risking the first 3. However, what we can do is just have a little play, and something that you can keep your eye out on are trends, okay? And I'm just going to finish up by saying, with that idea that you have picked and thinking back to the customer, thinking back to potentially what the solution could look like, and again, we're just making it up in our heads. What are the trends that you know of, be they social, cultural, technological, market trends, industry trends that might be relevant to your idea? So as an example, if your idea is about creating a load of little bits of plastic that you sell, there's a trend in the world, obviously, which is against one-use plastics. It might start to kill the idea pretty quickly. But have a little think. It might give you some inspiration about how you can grow, shape, or change your idea. Just a minute. And again, this is something if you want to amuse yourself in the evenings or through the day or whenever, the internet's quite a powerful thing for this. You can do quite a bit of research about what are those broader trends that you might want to latch onto. I'm doing a lot of work with a company at the moment, a big fast moving consumable goods company around sustainability and really kind of what that means to them, that and circularity. Two very kind of, or one very known concept, the other one a bit strange. But very much, you know, it is driving everything that they're doing. It also defines what things they don't do. Okay. So hopefully, perfect. Hopefully, wherever your starting point was, and again, we don't really mind where it is, just keep going back and reminding yourself why you want to do something. All right. It is quite important. I mean, we've all been involved in projects and launching new stuff in the companies that we worked for that we really didn't feel very passionately about. This is a moment where you can actually find your passion and capture that and write it down. The most important thing, though, is regardless of what your starting point is, we will force a relentless focus on customer. So who they are. And that's really important because when you start building a business, you need to keep going back and finding more of them. So you need to get really good at understanding, identifying, and reaching them. So that's why we say about where do they hang out? It means that's where you're going to go and meet them the whole time, be it virtually through advertising or whatever, or in person. That is where they're going to hear your message. Understanding their problems, their jobs, their pains and their gains in their language, which we get through the customer development techniques, means that actually you know your customers so well, you can play your value proposition back to them. But the most important thing, it's just giving you a few ways to play around with some ideas and a starting point. And this is nothing compared to what the full program will feel like. It's properly, it's hard work, but great fun. It's not actually too intensive time-wise day by day. You can put whatever amount you want in, but we'll definitely keep the pace going. Momentum is a really important thing. Katie.
Brilliant. Excellent. Thank you so much, Dan. From what we could see, for those of you who had your cameras turned on, there looked like there was quite a lot of note-taking and work being done, which is just fantastic. So, Dan, if you don't mind just moving to the next slide, what we really hope that you've kind of seen through this process of, joining Dan and I this evening or today and working on your ideas is seeing that these are things that are inside you, and it's really about making sure you've got the tools and the ways of getting those out of your head and onto paper so that you can start to move things forward. And Aspire, as Dan has already alluded to, is really focused on two key things. One, helping you identify new opportunities where you can be designing, your own future and leaping into your own future. So if you're wanting to launch your own venture, your own business, that you can be doing so, knowing that you've got the tools and the skills, and importantly, what we've discovered today, the mindset to do so. And then secondly, it's also about developing these skills as you go through the process. So as we've talked about through the session, we know that a lot of ideas don't, survive their kind of touch with reality, don't turn into fruition. And so it's about, well, how can you continue to evaluate if an idea is good and worth pursuing or not, and how can you use this type of working, in whatever environment it is that you end up in moving forward. We know that the landscape of skills and the requirements for work are changing. The pandemic and automation and things are really kind of, putting the speed on that. So what does this all mean in terms of the program? We've talked quite a lot about Aspire as a program. And if we move to the next slide, I will show you that it is it's a hub. It's digital content that we deliver to you weekly, where you can spend around an hour or so a week consuming the content, watching videos, reading case studies, looking through kind of examples and things, and tools and workflows, and then really importantly, taking what we're sharing with you and doing it, just like you've done as you followed us today through this session. It's about turning this into action, making things happen. We support the digital learning through some workshops where you've got access to each other and our subject matter experts who can then guide you through the different sessions. So when we talk of things like the value proposition canvas, what does that really mean? You can start to break down some of the segments, but how do you actually make sure you're kind of, applying that for your idea, using that tool appropriately for your idea. And then of course, also, one of the things that we know is that this is tough. And, the way that you can really get through this, and how entrepreneurs have been doing so time and time again, is making sure they're surrounded by a like-minded community, connected with people who are going through it at the same time, coming up against the kind of bumps in the road and the different challenges, but also with people who've been there and done it before. So these are the kind of core elements to the program. And we deliver this through a series of sprints. So the first sprint is, as we've talked about, customer discovery. So we spend 6 weeks of our 20-week program looking into this topic, because as we've highlighted this evening, it is the biggest risk to people when they're launching new ideas. So we look at things like the business model environment, like your customer segmentation. We dive down into that, and how you can also use data and insights to be helping you make really effective decisions. As I said, you can sort of be engaging with the content around an hour or so, and then applying that can take not any longer than another hour and a half. But also you can basically spend as much time as you would like. So if you aren't busy with other constraints on your time, you know, you can really be diving deeper. You can be having more conversations, you can be reading more resources. But so the program's designed in such a way that it takes from, you know, bite-sized content and allows you to spend the time that you've got on applying that. And the last sprint, the last sort of 14 weeks of the 20 is then really about how you take your validated idea, an idea that you know has got a fit with customers and is, you know, worth pursuing further, from the feedback, from the conversations you've been having, and now looking at how you can develop that into something that is tested. We take you through a whole range of different experiments through this process. So you're really learning how you can be testing ideas rapidly, getting feedback, looking at how you can do sort of the key pillars of your business as it evolves, looking at your sales, looking at your marketing, looking at your, you know, team development through these sessions. The only thing I would say, once you start getting through the program and into these last kind of 14 weeks, the intensity of the program starts to ramp up. The topics get sort of bigger and chunkier, but also hopefully your conviction in what you're doing, you know, is also becoming firmer. You know, you're really getting some good feedback at this point. And if you're not, that's okay. We're there to support you as you go back, to pivot, to kill an idea is as valuable as pursuing, you know, an idea that's really got some legs. We don't want people out there just pushing forward with ideas that aren't going to fit in the market. And the plus factor, and I think this is what makes us kind of really unique as Aspire and as the Aspire team, is that we've all been there and done it before. We have all built businesses in our previous lives successfully and unsuccessfully. We know the pains of what it is like to be waking up each day feeling like the whole to-do list sits on your shoulders, and how are you going to actually move the needle and make great things happen for your venture. And so this is where we surround you with a community manager who works with you week on week, checks in with you. If things crop up, that's okay. We can help, we can support you through that. How do you prioritize the learning to really move your idea forward, to make a demonstrable change in where you're at today? And again, this is where our wonderful coaches come in, people who have built and sold businesses, you know, again, coaching you week on week, making sure you're sort of applying the learning in a way that's really, you know, most appropriate for the type of business that you want to be building as well. You know, we can be building lifestyle businesses, we can be building hobby businesses, we can be building scalable ventures, you know, tech companies, or you know, a new cafe down the street because the coffee in your local area is shocking. You know, whatever it is that's sort of right for you. And I think that's the thing, the X factor, the plus factor that Aspire brings, is that we've been there and done it before. You're going to be really well supported through this journey. I think I might have another slide. So why you and why now? Well, there has never been a better time to launch a business. We know that new ventures are that are built in downturns tend to be more successful. You know, you're really having to fight to get the money out of people's pockets. And, you know, history shows us that, with Uber and Airbnb being launched in the last downturn. And why now? Well, now is no better time because we've also got a fantastic offer. We've got an upgrade coming for our January intake. If you wanted to join the program on starting on the 11th of January, we are offering our digital package with the coaching included. It's sort of no extra cost. So I think, you know, you and now make a great sense to move this forward with Aspire. We take people into the program once a month at the moment. So 11th of January and then 1st of February are our next kind of two kind of intakes of people with ideas, wanting to take them through this process of validating. And I think that's us. I think the last slide is just showing our website and things, Dan, isn't it? If we've got one more, there you go. If you want to find out more, you can visit discover.rainmaking.io/aspire-learner. With this information and with the follow-up that we'll be doing after this session, you will receive an email that has more information on the program, detailing down the different topics that we've highlighted through the slides that we cover each week, plus the opportunity if you want to sign up so that you can get on board and make the most of that upgrade for the new year. And also we'll be sharing this recording and the slides so that you can, you know, over your Christmas holidays, over the festive season, be taking the time to pursue, what kind of an idea looks like for you and how you could take something forward. But importantly, if there's nothing more that you take away from this session, it's just do something, get it out of your head, down onto paper, and you can make great things happen that way.
Yeah, get some bad ideas down on paper, yeah?
Yes, why not? Turn them into good ones eventually.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
I hate to sully this moment with price taggery, but how much does all of this cost?
Sure. So the program is priced at £50 a week. So it's £1,000 for the digital. So that's access to the digital tools, the learning, and the community manager as well, the community that you can be supporting with. And then on top of that, we have the coaching, which is a further £1,500. And that's what we're offering, for those of you from BP, as our special offer as the upgrade, that if you wanted to join us in January, you can do so at the digital price and have access to the coaching as well, which is sort of small group coaching once a week to just really make sure you're kind of on track and applying the learning.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. And so I think if that's the last question, I think then that's us all covered off. And thank you, Ian, for sharing that. Excellent. Yep, that breaks it down for you even further.
Oh, thank you very much.
Wonderful.
Thanks, guys. Great. Thank you.
All right,
Cool.
everyone. We wish you all the best.
Thank you very much for leaning in.
Thank
Yes,
you.
Thank you.
absolutely.
Have a great evening,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
Or morning. or-
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you. See you, Mark.
Bye.
Cheers. Take care.
James, thank you so much.
Bye. Yes.
Bye, James. Lovely to
I've
meet
got
you.
a screen full of stickies here. That's good.
Oh,
Good.
that's very good. We like that. Excellent.
You will end up with everything plastered over walls.
Yes.
I'm afraid.
I just can't see your face anymore.
It's not a bad thing. I've got a face for radio.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank
Take
you
care of
very much.
yourself.
Bye now. Bye now.
Bye.
All right.
Right. That's... Right. And
Sven,
Fergus is
Sven caught my paper aeroplane. Love it.
They were lovely, weren't they?
Yeah, it was good. What do you think?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've got to be honest. It's just like that for me now.
That was very good.
Fucking hell.
Well, from what we could see of those on camera, they were definitely doing things,
Yeah,
weren't they? They weren't just kind of like going,
Absolutely.
at time. So
Absolutely. Look, it's one of those, all the little, I mean, I make it up every time, as you can tell, but it's just sort of to catch because I know people sometimes will think, oh, why the fuck am I doing this?
yeah,
It's just to frame up that it's actually just really useful. Might seem a bit weird, but it's just useful to do. So yeah, no, that's
totally. Awesome.
excellent.
Well, thank you, Dan. Amazing
Pleasure.
as
Right.
always.
We're chatting in the morning.
We are chat around 10 would be great.
Absolutely.
NG stuff. I've got yeah, perfect. We'll just do that. That'd be amazeballs. Thank you
Cool.
very much.
It should be easy, and then we can have a quick chat about the week 19 or whatever it is. I've not looked at it.
Oh
so
yeah. I think
writing
I'm covered. I'm definitely covered through the holidays now, through the holiday period. But I just
Well, let's have a
it would be
chat.
quite nice if we could get it done and then it's done.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's have a chat. Yeah. So I'm trying
Yeah,
to
financial. It's a bit of financial modelling.
Yeah.
And then getting them to plan forward
absolutely
the
We'll
roadmap.
figure-
What do they do next? What do they do? Like,
correct. We'll figure it. All right.
awesome.
We'll figure that out. That's tomorrow morning's task. After
Good
I've finished
stuff.
up today. All righty.
All right, Dan. Take care of yourself. Thank
See
you.
ya.
Cheers.
Bye.